Hello, welcome to this session on formalism. We will begin our discourse by referring a 19th century painter, Maurice Denis. His manifesto titled Definition of Neo-Traditionalism starts with this sentence: remember that a picture, before it is a picture of a battle horse, a nude woman, or some story, is essentially a flat surface covered in colors arranged in a certain order. If you understand the above quoted statement in its essence, you will find it easy to grasp the concept of formalism. Formalism can be stated to be the concept that a work's artistic value is entirely determined by its form. Philosophically, this theory can be traced back to Plato. Plato proposed the theory of eidos. Plato even proposed that pure forms exist only in the form of idea. According to Plato, the natural representations we see around us are mere imitations. Aristotle also used eidos to mean form. To put it emphatically, it was Aristotle who used the term eidos in a better formalist sense. According to him, the properties attributed to a particular object is its eidos or morphe, usually translated as form. It is this which creates a particular object out of primal matter. Eidos is the Greek term for idea. In Latin, it became forma, from which evolved the English term form. Aristotle theorized about the question of pure form, that is, form which has not yet been combined with matter. Aristotle defined matter as that which can be moved. To quote Aristotle, pure form is unmoved mover, something which turns formless matter into actual objects but never moves or changes itself. Kant defined transcendental structures of our minds, which he termed as schemata. A schema is the totality of representation of form which we hold inside us. To put it technically, it is the procedural rule by which a category or pure non-empirical concept is associated with a mental image of an object. It is created by the imagination in relation to time. Let us see how this Kantian concept appears in art practice. We will start from the great post-impressionist painter Paul Cézanne. His analytical method tried to decode the essential nature of primary form in its empirical essence. To put it in a more simple way, Cézanne tried to deduce all objects, both man-made and natural, to their basic fundamental forms. He reduced the object's appearance by dividing its form, revealing an object to have an internal structure of formal relations. The essential primary forms, according to him, are cylinder, sphere, and cone. His still life and landscapes are statements in the philosophy of art. Cézanne was aware of the significance of what he was doing. That is why he stated that he can shock the entire Paris with the painting of an apple. Cézanne used the method of fragmentation of both forms and perspective in his works. He has used multiple perspective in a single work. That is, he observed and studied an object from various angles, created sketches of them. Then he deduced the object to its basic form. These fragments of images of the object, observed from various viewpoints, are then assembled into a single image. This same idea can be seen to have used in murals in Egyptian pyramids. Look at an example image. The image of the human figure shown here has face and legs shown in profile view and chest shown in front view. Cézanne was not imitating from Egyptian painting or Japanese painting. Of course, he must have studied and assimilated them. He was creating a breakthrough in the formal representation of an object. His discovery was phenomenal and very significant in the history of Western artistic thought. His ideas and methods have influenced many of 20th century art movements. Most important among them was Cubism. This art style was developed by Georges Braque and Pablo Picasso in the early 20th century. Cubism has evolved through three stages: the primitive phase, analytic phase, and synthetic phase. It is in the middle analytical cubist phase that we find a clear manifestation of formal division taken to its extreme. In this phase, the cubists were so concerned with the division and reassemblage of form that they were unconcerned about the aspect of color. That is why the paintings from analytic cubist period mostly use a neutral brown palette. It is also to be noted that the cubists studied various cultural traditions of the so-called primitive cultures of Africa and adapted freely from them. African masks are masterly examples of analytical division of form. We have seen how fragmentation of forms was taken to its extreme limit in analytical cubist phase. Now let us remember what we have learned from Kant. He says that a schema is the totality of representation of form which we hold inside us. It is an association of pure concept with the mental image of an object. It is created by the imagination in relation to time. An analytical cubist painter analyzes an object by fragmenting multiple images of an object observed from different viewpoints at different time. They are then amalgamated into a unified whole as an image. Analytical cubism conforms to the definition of formalism as the concept that a work's artistic value is entirely determined by its form. Cubism paved the way for later avant-garde formalists who totally eliminated representative subject matter by concentrating only on formal elements in non-objective compositions. Neoplasticism is an example of such a complete reduction of representative form. In analytical cubism, an observer can find an object in a fragmented, reassembled manner. With a little contemplation, it may be possible to recognize certain objects in them, seen from multiple angles. In neoplasticism, this process becomes impossible. The form is reduced to total abstraction that representation or mimesis is not aimed at all. A painting here is reduced to its basic formal reality, the color, line, and composition. The formalist method of art criticism, where fundamental formal elements are examined to judge the value of a work of art, also made its appearance around this time. It was not only artists like Braque and Picasso, but also theoreticians like Roger Fry were influenced by the ideas of Paul Cézanne. Roger Fry was an important art critic who was significant in the development of formalist aesthetics. He was an English art critic who was associated with a formalist aesthetic movement called the Bloomsbury Group. Roger Fry came into contact with the ideas and works of Paul Cézanne in 1906. He then wrote essays analyzing the art theory of French modernists and organized their shows in England. It was Roger Fry who coined the term post-impressionist to designate the French modernist painters who were active during 1880s. Some other significant members of Bloomsbury Group were the art critic Clive Bell, the painters Vanessa Bell and Duncan Grant, novelist and critic Virginia Woolf, and the novelist E.M. Forster. Roger Fry and Clive Bell worked together to formulate a theoretical basis for post-impressionist art. Clive Bell is known as one of the most prominent proponents of formalism in aesthetics. Bell thought that an artwork can produce a distinct aesthetic experience in the viewer, and it is this experience which gives value to a work of art. Bell termed this experience aesthetic emotion. Aesthetic emotion can be created only by a real artwork. This is what differentiates a real artwork from a fake artwork. According to Bell, all works of visual art which are capable of arousing aesthetic emotion have some common quality. This quality can be found in works ranging from Chinese carpets, Giotto's frescoes at Padua, the masterpieces of Poussin, Piero della Francesca to Cézanne's works. Bell terms this quality as the presence of significant form. When lines and colors are combined in a particular way, certain forms and relations of forms stir our aesthetic emotions. These relations and combinations of lines and colors, the aesthetically moving forms, are called by Clive Bell as significant form. Aesthetic emotion is that experience which is aroused by what Bell terms as significant form. In his book Art, published in 1913, Bell elaborates on the idea of significant form. In it, he states that we experience aesthetic emotion in response to the significant form of a work of art is because we perceive that form as an expression of an experience the artist has undergone. The artist's experience in turn, according to Bell, is the experience of seeing ordinary objects in the world as pure form. A real artist sees a thing not as a means for something else, but as an end in itself. An art object, according to formalist theory, need not be a vehicle of expression or representation. It can be an end in itself. It can stay autonomous in its significant form. Though experience of the artist was given importance by Clive Bell, even this experience was formal according to him. This kind of extreme formalist position is popularly known under the label art for art's sake. Theorists of formalism and expressionism fought ideological battles over the function and value of art. For formalists like Roger Fry and Bell, art's value is embedded in its form. During the period the Bloomsbury group was active in England, other groups were actively developing their aesthetic theory and practice in other parts of the world. Russian constructivism was such a significant art movement which had wide-reaching influence. Constructivism had a strong theoretical background. It tried to liberate art from its romantic function. Constructivism was concerned about the questions of artwork itself. The material with which an artwork is made was significant to a constructivist artist because the possibility and limitation of the material by themselves decide the final form of the artwork. The form of an object is conceived not only by its creator, but also by the very material with which it is made. So, an artistic process starts from the very moment an artist chooses a particular medium to work with. He then makes conscious decisions to limit the form within the physical limitations of the material. This thought process has allegiance to structuralist mode of thought, in which meaning is dependent on the structure within which an artwork is placed. Constructivism can be seen as an attempt to put formalist values in the context of historical progression. Constructivist aesthetic approach can actually be seen as developing through the leftist attitude of dialectical materialism. It can be thought of as a synthesis of Kantian formalism and Hegelian dialectical dynamism. The first works of constructivism appeared around 1913 in Russia. A leading artist of the movement was Vladimir Tatlin. The movement tried to disassociate metaphysical ideas of form from matter and link it to pure practical and functional properties of matter and form. Constructivist ideas appear in a modified aesthetic attitude in another art movement named Suprematism. Suprematism was also a Russian movement and it also appears around 1913 with Kazimir Malevich as the founder. Suprematism proposed a new kind of expression of feeling. In suprematist art, the feeling is supposed to be so pure that it is devoid of emotion. The formal expression of pure feeling requires pure form. It is this aesthetics which is reflected in works of Malevich like the Black Square, White on White, so on. Constructivism and suprematism differed in their approach to the function of form. Suprematism proposed pure formalism devoid of any social function and thus may be treated as belonging to the art for art's sake group. Malevich stated that by creating the form of a square, man has placed himself as a creator because a pure square form cannot be found anywhere among natural objects. Malevich's version of formalism was vehemently opposed by critics, more because of its political implication. Italian Futurism was also a significant theoretical step towards the liberation of form from its traditional classical barriers imposed by naturalists. Futurists were also concerned with the qualities of modern structural materials and wanted to liberate themselves from the disciplines of historical styles. The artists of the movement added the element of dynamic motion, precipitated and condensed to physical shape and form. This was something very new to the formalist tradition of art. The perceptive experience of form by a man from classical antiquity cannot be compared to the perceptive experience of a modern man. Modern man has acquired new experiences of space and form. This statement may appear confusing to you, but think of a man sitting by a window of an ultra-fast vehicle. The person may feel sitting without motion, while the outer forms move backwards, dissolving their forms into something else. This experience was not available to an ancient human being. Futurists believed that it is this type of new experiences which have to be realized in physical form, thus creating a new modern form. Art movements like the Stil and Bauhaus also proved to be important to the development of a formalist aesthetics. As we have stated earlier, the artworks of Mondrian and other painters of the Stil reduced the object to its essential form, thus creating an idea of the object in its pure abstraction. In 1940s, American art critic Clement Greenberg argued that form and content are inseparable in an artwork. The value of art is located in its form. It was he who coined the term post-painterly abstraction to define a group of American painters of the 1960s who used areas of color without any visible gestural strokes. Most of the painters used hard edge to define their form. Minimalism is another formalist movement of importance to our current context. It appeared in 1960s. Minimalist works attempt to expose the essence of a subject through eliminating all non-essential features or concepts. Prominent artists associated with this movement include Donald Judd, Dan Flavin, Cole Anthony, so on. Minimalists also tried to disassociate form from the metaphorical association, symbolism and metaphysical suggestions. Minimalist aesthetics tried to derive pure form through proposing to avoid composition altogether. How successful they were at this process is a debated topic. In a traditional artwork, the parts are carefully arranged to give the feeling of visual unity in composition. Minimalists suggested the use of singular form and thus avoid arrangement of form in space. To arrive at pure form, minimalists tried to eradicate all signs of authorship from the artwork. Donald Judd states, "A shape, a volume, a color, a surface is something in itself. It shouldn't be concealed as part of a fairly different whole." Minimalist aesthetics was also severely criticized by many thinkers. Michael Fried's essay Art and Objecthood, published in 1967, points out that minimalism failed to differentiate between an object and an object in art. Now it is time we conclude this session on formalism. As you are aware, form is of utmost importance to an artist, so one cannot disregard the ideological discourse happening around it. Masters of art have successfully translated their thoughts to visual form and writers to written form. Aesthetics tries to abstract these streams of thought into a coherent philosophical system. Till our next session, bye.